seen your mom?
I've seen your dad.
Kids, I don't know where your mom's at. I can't find her. Tara, where are you? So Jody, you and I have been talking about this a bit, but the more I've been thinking about it after the journey has moved into Hiram here is, man, our proximity. We're only 10 or 12 minutes away, and both of our churches are really trying to get some missional traction in Paulding County. We really want to change our neighborhoods. We really want to be a blessing to the community. We love our city, and we want to see things happen here, and God do a great work of mission here. So it just seems to me to be a crime that our churches don't come together and really partner together. You're a relatively small church. We're a relatively small church. If both of our churches come together, we can do a whole lot more together than we can do apart.
And I think when we come together, we're not really a small church anymore. We're functioning as a bigger church now. Right. And I think in that, where it's shared resources, money, people, personnel, the gifts and abilities of the church body itself.
Creative ideas.
Oh man, it's fun. As we just kind of started out working this thing together, seeing people sit around a table and throw some ideas out and be encouraged by one another in that same room, working toward the same goal. That does a lot for my heart. And it's something I've been seeing from my people for a while. But just like you said, when you come together and you start getting people together focused on one thing, and it's for the sake of the Lord and for the gospel, dude, you can see a lot happen. So I'm encouraged by that, dude. I mean,
well, Jesus in John 17 prayed that they might be one.
Yeah.
And we can see a million different evidences of ways that we're divided.
Yeah.
But we don't often see churches coming together like this so that we can work together and that we might fulfill the prayer of Jesus in John 17, that we would be one.
Yeah.
To me, I see in this it flowing out of Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 and following, where he talks about for two are better than one, for they have a greater reward for their labor. The investment that your church makes and the investment that my church makes, when we make it together, the return on our labor is a lot greater.
Well, I think that even goes along with the whole servant who did not have much from his master. Do you remember that story? He kind of hid it. And I think what we're kind of doing here is like, well, I don't have much, but let me share it with you. Let's do more with something else. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, in that story as well, there was a great reward for that. And it's not that we're doing it for the reward, but man, it's just, I don't know, it's just encouraging to me. But as much as I know that it's encouraging, Jason, I know people who out there might be hearing this kind of go, there's going to be some problems with that. So obviously there's some negative signs to that. And I don't know if have you thought about some of the things that we're going to run into?
Well, I mean, you're going to get jealous that you're not quite as good looking as I am.
It's already starting.
It's a problem. Let's just put it out there and let's be honest about this. You need to hit the gym a little bit. I'm a pretty buff dude. That it is what it is. Okay. But other than that, right?
That's the haircut. Dude.
Yeah. Well, I got awesome hair. But we got two collections, two churches, which is two collections of sinners colliding together on events and ideas and things to do together. And so when you do that, you've got all these personalities that are thrown in the same room, all these creative juices flowing. Somebody gets their feelings hurt. Right. Somebody's idea doesn't get used. Yeah. So you and I have to be very, very careful that we're seeking to apply the work of the gospel, which is the dynamic, it is the change agent that conforms us to the image of Christ. Yeah. As long as we're doing that, as long as we're focused on Jesus and His work, is what puts us together, we're going to overcome problems, and we're going to advance the gospel together. Yeah,
I know, and I know we have to. I mean, that's the whole point about that. And I think what a great opportunity that you and I have in this first collaboration that we got, man, it's called the series is called The Seven, and I think we're talking about a church. What broke the church is our tagline for that. And I know we've been doing some study in the first 3 chapters of the book of Revelation, and we have this kind of neat kind of spot. Jesus is talking to his boy John, and he's saying, here's the message that I have you to give to the church, because there's some warnings I got to give, because some stuff where you screwed up in, because you're broken people. Yeah. So what was some of the stuff in your studies that you've been seeing already, and is the church of 2,000 years ago, is it really any different than the church of today?
It's not, Joey. Okay. It really isn't. In my study, the first 3 chapters, what we're seeing are the same issues that plagued the church 2,000 years ago, the same issues that threatened to derail the church and its mission at that point in time are the same issues that threaten to derail us today. The issue of tolerance is a big one before us, and what's the church's take on that? What's the church's take on doctrine? Is it important? Right. Jesus says to the churches that doctrine is critical. It is important. But then he continues on and says, but if you don't have love, And so we see some churches, they're checking the boxes, they believe the right thing, they're doing the right thing, but they don't love people, and maybe they don't really love Jesus the way they were supposed to. And the truth is, all of these things exist, at least in seed form, in the hearts of our own people, right? We have to stay vigilant. We have to be ever watchful to make sure that we're applying the gospel to the lives of our people and our own lives as pastors, first and foremost. Yeah. We lead our families well, and then be able to lead our churches well. So the issues of 2,000 years ago are still the issues of today. Yeah. There's a different culture, a different context, a different clothing, if you will, to it. But we struggle with these things. We continually have to work through.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a very applicable point for us today. And what's kind of cool about the book of Revelation, Jay, is that, in the end, Jesus shows up. Yeah. And there's this whole...
that really is the good part, right?
That's the good part, And so you have this thing where he shows up, and it's done. He is victorious over evil, and the church is there with him, man. We've gone through some stuff. Yeah. And I know if your heart and my heart kind of bleeds like this, but is that we want to be there with the church in the end. Absolutely. I want to see our church be there with Jesus when he overcomes. And I think that the church, too, in its own right, is something, it's overcoming these obstacles. And I think you did you found a cool word in the ESV that it's not in some of the other translations. What was that you were finding out?
Well, to each of the 7 churches, Jesus says in the ESV translation, he says, to him who conquers. So this presents the idea to us that the church isn't just stumbling through hard times. Yeah. We're not just stumbling through hardship and difficulty. In an election year where everybody's a little worried, a little anxious about not only the future of our country, but the future of the church.
And the future of Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely.
Hey, especially in the South. Let's just be serious.
Right. Hey, we love some chicken. Right? Yes. We love some chicken. So whenever we bring these things kind of out in the open, how's the church going to deal with these things? Yeah. And we're going to conquer, man. We're not just going to get drugged through. We're not just going to barely be there at the end. Jesus is the sovereign Lord of the church. And he's going to lead his church to conquer because we have the transformational principle of the gospel that we're seeking to apply not only to our lives, but to so many people who aren't yet in relationship with Christ. Yeah.
So in that, there's still hope and there's still time for the church.
Absolutely.
And broken doesn't mean...
it doesn't mean unusable.
Right. It means it's fixable, and we've got time to get on board with what Jesus has for us and to make a difference in our county, man.
And in that, we have the warnings of Jesus, right? Yeah. We have to take these things seriously. Yeah. There's hope. He's called us to conquer, but there are some apparently who don't. Yeah. Jesus says, I can come and take your lampstand, which may sound a little cryptic to us, but it's the idea that for Jesus to leave the church, right? We want to know that Jesus is the sovereign Lord of our church, that he's worshipped, that he's the one who's followed. He's the senior pastor, right, of our churches. So I think it's going to be an exciting time for Hometown and the Journey to explore Revelation 1 through 3 together.
Yeah.
And we hope and pray that a lot of other people might catch along with us.
Yeah, man. You know, I had another question. I was just thinking about talking with you here is, if we could do this right and listening to the message that Jesus has for us, what does a church that overcomes look like, dude? What's happening in that church?
Yeah. This is a church that is living out the upside down principle of the gospel. Okay. And that may sound a little odd to some people. You know, Jesus came in teaching the truth of the gospel is that the first will be last.
Yeah.
You know, it's the last and the humble who are first. It's the weak who demonstrate strength. Jesus is always kind of turning things upside down. He's subverting the culture.
Yeah.
And so I think a church that overcomes is a church that is subverting the culture, a church that's living out the gospel ethic of love in its neighborhood, in its community, and people's lives are being transformed by the work of the gospel. So people are being changed, and as people get changed, all kinds of things can change because we've got our hands on everything.
We're making disciples as Jesus commanded us to do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that I know excites you. It excites me is that we're longing to see the conversions in our church, man. We want to see people that's inspired by the Spirit of God, man, to go out and to preach Jesus' name, and let's grow our churches. I think there's something in overcoming. I think it's the growth of our church. I think you and I should wake up every morning expecting to see it, because I think I truly believe that the Spirit's going to show up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not expecting enough, but as we look forward, we're anticipating and we're expecting far greater things than we've ever seen before.
And I think it's just a beginning, because I think we're just getting on something good.
We really are. I think this is just the beginning, just the beginning ripples in the water where God begins to do something extraordinary in Paul County.
Yeah. Watch out, Northwest Georgia.
There you go, man.